everybody. So let's welcome everybody from Grupas, from Brazilian FM membership, as well as Abrafac. I don't know who is with us, but should be all those groups. Grupas, Abrafac, and Brazilian IFMA membership.
And FMCC too.
And yes, and the guys who is with us. So first of all, before the presentations, I have to thank you, Val, Moraes, as well as John Ringness for joining us on it and sharing your experience in the consultancy sector. Thank you so much, guys, for making it possible and sharing with us your experience. Val is in Auckland, New Zealand. It is a day ahead of us. It is already Friday there, I guess so.
Friday the 13th, yes.
And and John, it is behind of us time. It is almost lunchtime, I guess so.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Oh, thank you so much, guys. I also would like to thank you, Costa, for opening up this opportunity inside Grupas, sponsoring this event, first international workshop that Grupas is sponsoring in partnership with IFMA. Thank you, Joshua, for supporting us on it on behalf of IFMA. Thank you so much. See you again. Thank you, Ricardo Crepaldi, for making it possible. He managed it. He ran it for us, making this virtual workshop possible. So this, it is a great opportunity for us in Brazil to see how consultants business is doing out of Brazil, and if you can implement some things that Val and John will share with us today. So now I think I'm going to turn to Val to start. Just, Ricardo, after the John presentation, we're going to have 10 minutes Q&A, question and answers. Is it?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Sure.
So, Val, 10 minutes for your presentation, then we're going to turn to John, and then we're going to have some Q&A to have audience participation on it.
Okay, before we start the presentation, I just want to jump in real quick. If you're not speaking or asking a question, if people could just mute themselves, it would improve the audio quality.
Good idea.
And you can mute yourself by finding your name and just clicking the microphone or the telephone. Thank you very much, everyone.
I pressed the wrong button.
Okay. Can we roll? Next slide, please. Josh, you taking this one? Next couple of slides.
Oh, I can take this. Those of you that are new to the FMCC, this is the vision statement and the mission statement of FMCC. And also, the FMCC provides many services to the FM community, such as Ask the Expert, Find a Consultant, Locate a Speaker, and online educational resources. And these resources are available at fmcc.ifma.org. And as we also have sponsors for the council itself, and they help us carry out the mission of furthering the FM profession and specifically focusing on the consultants community. Okay, and I'm Joshua. I'm the IFMA Component Liaison. I'll be hosting the meeting today, and at this time I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to our presenter, Val.
Yeah, morning everybody, and thank you for this great opportunity and a privilege to be here among the FM fraternity from Brazil. And good morning to you from Auckland, New Zealand. It's Friday the 13th. I'm not very superstitious, but just to let you know, we are in the morning of the Friday the 13th. So far, so good. Everything is operating the way it should be. So fantastic. So thank you for this great privilege to be here sharing our thoughts and views with the Brazilian FM community. Next slide, please. So yeah, so we were sort of asked what is you know, the thing about consultancy is one always sort of asks a facilities manager along the career path, always asks this question: when is the right time to become an FM consultant, or why must you look at becoming an FM consultant, and who is qualified to become an FM consultant? And these are tough questions, and there are no straight answers. And most of these, what I'm sharing with you today, is possibly my own personal experiences and those of others around me who you know, we share with each other our experiences. So there's no exact science, but we will sort of share with you what we think based on our experiences, what is the right time, and why one should be looking at it to become an FM consultant, and what possibly could be that qualifies you to become an FM consultant. Next slide, please. Yeah, if you can just excuse this, because it's taking a little time to advance between slides for some reason today. So the right time, it's a huge question as to when is the right time, because as an FM practitioner, you always sort of you sort of start. Most of us, as you know, are accidental facilities managers. We started as something, we went to qualify as something at school and college, and then we turned, in the end, about 10 years later, you just suddenly realize you're in the business of facilities management. And I think about 80% of us around the globe are in that category, if I'm not mistaken. So most of us begin that way, and then we work towards our end goal is to sort of become the best facilities manager or the most competent facilities manager, and you keep working hard, you move towards your own personal goals, and but there is a time when you peak as an FM practitioner, and there's a lots of ways of finding out whether you've peaked or not, and I don't know how others find out, but I think about 10 years ago I kind of thought I had peaked in my career. Because when I looked around in the marketplace and looked at my peer group and I looked at others around me, I kind of knew there's only a few places from where I could move from where I was. So I was the National Facilities Manager for Colliers International at the time. And I looked around me and I said, right, so I used to be on a 5-year cycle in jobs. So for me, personally, that's how I operated as an FM practitioner. So I would sort of disrupt my whole career path every 5 years. In a nutshell, that's what I did most of my career path. So I sort of worked in that organization, went to a 5-year cycle, and disrupted my career path by going somewhere else. And however well I was doing that organization. So while in my last role as the National Facilities Manager of a large supermarket chain, an Australian chain, I kind of knew that I had peaked, because there was only 1 or 2 places in New Zealand or Australia that I could actually now go in a national role. I had already served about 3 national roles in this part of the world. And I thought to myself, I'm now waiting for a trigger. And I think there was a trigger that came along about 8 years ago, when I first sort of started the consultancy role. And using that trigger, I decided I have peaked in my career. It's now time to basically look at becoming a consultant. And that was my personal decision. I decided I want to be a consultant. And to be one, I already had the right tools under my belt. Over the last 15 years, I had actually gone and qualified myself as I had got my CFM credentials. I had done my MBA before that. So even to peak as an FM practitioner, I had gone and picked up the right tools and had the right tools under my belt. So I knew that. So it was quite an easy decision for me because I had the right experience, which I thought I had, and I think with the MBA that I had sort of qualified for and the CFM qualifications, I think I had the right tools, but I had made some serious efforts also in the way of actually networking. In those three roles that I had as the National Facilities Manager, I had actually done very, very well. And I keep telling people when I mentor them, it's so much about, you know, who you know. That's so important. It's not what you know sort of counts in the end. You know, it's who you know. So networking played a huge, huge part for me personally. And as I tell people when I mentor them, it's not just networking, it's about net weaving. I mean, one has got to sort of, you know, make that serious effort to just not, you know, sitting and, you know, sipping coffee or, you know, sort of meeting somebody at some social function, but basically trying to be constantly on it, use opportunities to, you know, sort of build those sort of contacts and work on those relationships. So going back to the right time, so all these things that, you know, I'm talking about cannot be sort of sorry, there was something happening on my computer screen. So all these things have to be actually pre-planned in a way. So it's not that, you know, you sort of say, hey, you know, right, I think I'm now ready to become a consultant, so now I've got to start networking. I've got to. It has to start a good 15 years, you know, in the making, where, you know, somebody, you know, sort of says, right, one day I'm going to become a consultant. So to become a consultant, what do I need? Okay, I need these credentials. I need to have the right contacts. I've got to be part of the right associations. I've got to be linking with my fellow professionals and sort of, you know, so am I part of the right associations? So this is where contacts networking really does happen, you know, being part of the association, being part of IFMA or FMCC, or in our case, in this part of the world, it's the Australian Facilities Management Association or the New Zealand Facilities Management Association, and in your case, it might be Grupas or Abrantes or, you know, I don't know, the other associations within Brazil. So I think it's a very, very important thing, and not only just that, being part of the association, but how do you sort of become, create your own personal brand? Because as a consultant, what is most important is, have you, in the last 15 years of your experience, created that personal brand? Have you made that special effort to sort of, you know, make that, create your own personal brand, your brand of FM in the market? So which means when you go out to the market as a consultant, the client knows he or she is going to get that, like in my case it was, we will get Val Moraes brand of FM when we go and ask for advice. So it is important. Next slide, please. Yeah, so why should you want to be a consultant? Now, this is, for me personally, this is what it was. And that is why I put this little thing together. It's like a pyramid. So you begin at the base and you sort of say, right, where do I want to be one day? And this is something that, you know, 20 years ago I told myself, one day I'm going to be a consultant. So, and to sort of do that, you got to be in the right place at the right time, do the right things. So controlling your destiny along the way. You got to sort of building those relationships with the C-suites as you go along. And as a young engineer or as a young facilities manager, I always sort of looked at how do I go in search of excellence. And I keep telling people, you know, the first thing I did very, very well was look, listen, and learn from others, learn from my experiences, good and bad. And one most important thing I sort of did was to reinvent all along. And again, this is what it is about. You know, if you don't reinvent yourself, you can't move up the pyramid. You have to sort of keep reinventing yourself, reinventing your brand of FM, reinventing your own personal brand in a way that it leads you right on to the top of the pyramid. Because in the end, if you are an ambitious FM, that's what you're trying to do. You are pushing your way up to the top of the pyramid. And for me, the ultimate was to be a preacher of my profession, and that's what consultancy is. Consultancy is about preaching what you've learned in all the 25 years of your life, from whatever trade that you picked up to what you manage today. And so for me, it's the ultimate. That is why I wanted to be a consultant, because ultimately I wanted to be on the top of the pyramid. It's not an easy climb. We all know that. All of us, are experienced FMs here, and it's all about hard work, but working towards that goal. In the end, you got to be focused. You got to say, right, that's what I'm going to be. Next slide, please. So who can be a successful consultant? Right. I think my personal view is anybody with an FM experience of over 15 years. However, in saying that, he or she has had definitely prepared. It's not starting to prepare at the end of 15 years. It is also, as much as you're sort of going through that experience, preparing yourself for that ultimate, sort of goal. So, yep, at least 15 years. You've got to be a successful FM practitioner. If you're not a successful FM practitioner, I think you might not, just my personal, you may not be a successful consultant, because in the end, that's what it is. Your success of FM, you're carrying on to the next level. Being positive attitude is absolutely important, I think. Every consultant should have that positive attitude. A personal brand, that's what helped me in my business in this part of the world. Created a personal brand, and it really, really sort of helped me all along. And I think this is the trickiest part, mastering the art of delivery, which is more and more important than FM service recovery. That has been my mantra to a lot of other FM people around me. And what I mean by that is, this is what clients come to you for as a consultant. In most cases, they come to you for service recovery. And most of the people, as you know, around the market, they are more reactive than proactive. And if you create a brand where you are a master of service recovery, you'll be more successful than if you have created a brand of just being in the art of service delivery. And obviously, reputation precedes you. They say a good reputation in the market is absolutely gold. Next slide, please. Now I hand you to my fellow panelist, John. John, thank you.
Great. Thank you, Bill. So how much time do I have, Francisco? 10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. My bio is there. First of all, hola, amigos. How's that? Is that pronunciation okay? Hey, Carlos. Carlos and I sat in on the CFM prep course in Denver. I got to learn a little bit about Brazil. Enjoyed those conversations. A real pleasure to be here. One of the things that's not in my bio that I think that might be applicable as we look at establishing an FM practice is, how did I get into consultancy? So over 30 years in facility management, I would say 10 years of that time was with FM service providers. 10 years, roughly 10 years, I was in-house operator as a facility professional. And then the last 8 years actually with Next FMS. So that's how, and why I got into it was I always wanted to start my own business when I was in my 20s. Never had the courage to do that. And then I had an assignment over in India, and we came back. All our kids are grown. We have grandchildren, and I looked at my wife, and we had some discussions, and thought, this is the time to try this. And so we've had peaks and valleys, and I'm happy to share any of those with you when we get to the Q&A session, any questions you might have. But let's continue. Next slide, please. So when we think about FM as a business, these are four of the things I'm going to touch base with you today. So who needs a consultant? We're going to take a look at some models, financial models, business models. Also, one question that comes up is, how do I establish my fee? So I'll talk a little bit about that, and then the investment that's required to start a FM practice. Next slide, please. All right, so here you see I wonder how many of us have actually felt like this at sometimes. We're inside our facility, you know, we're enjoying whatever is going on inside that facility, but outside we might have this impending danger. You'll notice off to the left there, you can actually see there is water. So if they had done a emergency preparedness exercise or business continuity exercise, they would have probably, hopefully, planned for this in eventuality. But when I think about, you know, maybe more aptly put is who does not need a consultant, and I would say that really we all need help from time to time. In fact, really even consultants can actually use other consultants to give them assistance with their business, their strategies, perhaps their expertise that they bring to the table. When you think about clients, really we have two types of clients. We have clients that they know what they don't know. So an example of that could be they know that they need a asset management program, but they might not know how to go about doing that. So then they would need a consultant to help them do that. And sometimes you run into situations where clients don't know what they don't know. And an example of that connected to asset management program would be this whole issue of big data and what's happening with that. And what's one of the concerning things that's quickly growing out of this in the big data arena is it's growing, big data is growing twice the rate of structured, so unstructured data is growing twice the rate of structured data. Now, what does that mean? That's going to cause all sorts of complexities, additional costs with systems integrators, et cetera, et cetera. So that's one example. So I think in that particular context, you know, consultants need to do a better job of raising the awareness of these issues. Next slide, please. And I hope you guys are understanding what I'm saying, but I had my grandchildren over here and they were sick, and one of them ended up sticking their hand in my mouth a couple of times, and so I think I've caught their bug, so excuse me for the raspiness of my voice. Some of the business models from a financial end, typically you can see that I think the most basic element is this time-based, generally done on a daily basis, sometimes monthly. I had one contract that was an annual contract. It was actually a 2-year contract. Then you get into a fixed rate. That's pretty self-explanatory. You can have fixed rate, which could include expenses. Then you have fixed rate plus additional expenses, and generally the client will ask you to build a budget based on those assumptions that you have going into that consultancy. The next one could be a fee percentage. I personally am not a fan of this one because the larger the project, of course, you get a better fee, a larger fee. But there's this awkwardness in that type of structure. I know typically this is used in construction in Canada with engineers and architects. They'll set a percentage fee, but I wanted to cite that. Next one is a flat fee plus percentage of savings. This is really helpful if you're starting with a new client and let's say they don't have much of a budget. I had one client that told me they were losing about $1,000 a day. And but he didn't really know me, I didn't really know him, and so I offered this a flat rate, which was lower than what I would normally charge, and then a percentage of savings. And so he developed some trust. We had very clear deliverables in that agreement, and but that's another option. Another one that I don't have listed there is a retainer. What I typically do, if it's an overseas project, I'll ask for a retainer up front. And one of the reasons, the primary reason for doing that is if there's some uncertainty about payment schedule. Will that client pay? How long will it take? One of the things I learned working in Asia is that a contract is in Canada or the US, we would say the contract is the end-all, the be-all. But I quickly learned over there that the contract was a starting place. It wasn't the finishing place. And so even though you had these terms that were very specific, the actual delivery of their expectation could be different. Next slide, please. Okay, so we often get asked, what should I charge? So a rule of thumb, when you, to Val's comment about transitioning from, the FM background into, consultancy, take your total annual salary, your total benefit package, everything, put a dollar value to that, and take 1%. So if your annual package was $50,000, then a rule of thumb would be your daily rate would be $500. If your annual package was $100,000, your daily rate would be $1,000, and so on and so on. So you get the gist of that. Now, as far as how much that should be, it depends on which country we're talking about. It depends on your skill set, credentials that Bell talked about, your years' experience. There's a lot of factors in that. Of course, competition is another one. I made a mistake in India on my first consulting gig while I was over there. I used my Canadian, price point, went out, had a great dialogue with this potential client, going back and forth, emails, great conversations. It looked like it was going to happen. I sent the proposal with him, which had the fee in it, and it got real quiet. And so I quickly learned that you can't use, you have to be a relative in that particular market. Next slide, please. All right, so typical investment, of course, time is one of the key points. So timing of becoming a consultant, the amount of time, the preparatory work to become a consultant. I subcontract some of my work out. I use collaborative business agreements with other consultants. One guy is a full-time energy manager, and I subcontract him out. And so he's staying in his full-time job. He's waiting to become a consultant. He wants to become one. And so he spends evenings and weekends and vacations sometimes to build up his consultancy. And then at some point he'll transition from that facility management role into the consultancy. Legal fees is something to watch for. You might have somebody approach you, another consultant that says, I'd like to do a collaborative MOU with you, and so you might need legal fees set aside to draft that document. In Canada, we have, we're set up, Next FMS is set up as a corporation, so we have an annual incorporation accounting process, and that's about $1,500 to do that. You need the hardware, laptops, smartphone. One of the things that I use is Office 365. I can't believe how cheap it is and how effective that platform. So my email is a full exchange, what we would have had in Marriott Corporation or Aramark, and they make it available on a SaaS, software as a service model. I'd also talk about quickly, I know my time's over, as far as office progression, don't jump into setting up a leasing office, start right away. Initially I started, it was out of my home. I answered the phone, then I went to an answering service, somebody else answered the phone, then I moved from there to a virtual office, so they answer the phone, my mail goes there. I can rent an office or I can rent a boardroom, and then the next step after that would be an office setup. And also, I just think it's important to give back. As you do these things, whether it's finances and or time, and I've invested a lot of time in the FM Consultants Council, and just a great bunch of guys. If you have any question, you just pick up the phone or send somebody an email, and they're very, very helpful in that regard. So in closing, I hope this has been helpful. Mucho gracias, Francisco, for this opportunity. And that wraps my session up. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Val and John, for sharing us your experience. I just, for 2 questions for each one of you, for Val and John, and I share with the audience my questions that I sent privately to Val and John. If you guys could just answer, you appreciated it.
Okay.
And then it is open for more questions. If you guys want to make questions, just write down using the right part of the desk.
Josh, are you able to read out the questions? Because I can't see it displayed on my...
Sure. Give me 1 second.
You can't, Val?
Can I?
They said, we have 3 challenges here in Brazil on this matter, the level of FM knowledge and the market in general. Says the relationship between FM consultation and the high level of strategic board of clients, and finally, the vision of the FM consultant.
This is just a comment.
Oh, okay. And it then also goes on, a big opportunity to Brazilian FM consultancies to evolve and share multinational projects and have international FM consultants asking us to share with them. Question. Okay, so I sent to Val, etc. Okay, I sent to John. Do you usually outsource anything during your consultancy, or do you do 100% of the job? In case positive, how do you change?
Charge,
sorry.
Okay, Val, you want to start?
For me? Okay. I can't do most, I do most of the jobs myself, but in some cases I do outsource. So I would sort of go and get a specialist who knows more about the subject matter than me. And but in doing so, I basically would take responsibility for whatever advice or decisions made by whoever I sort of engage. But one of the things that I've learned also is that while in doing that, or sort of utilizing that model, I first go to the client and basically tell them that this is not my specialty, but you've come to me, I will deal with it. I will take responsibility for whatever advice that comes to you, but I'm going to be engaging somebody who knows more about this on the subject matter. And so, you know, this is received quite well, because I think clients do appreciate honesty when it comes to this, and you don't want to be pretending to be an expert in all subject matters. And I think the second part of the question was, how do you charge? Well, I mean, there's ways to do it. I mean, I normally charge out a rate of $125 an hour when it comes to sort of new clients, and for regular clients, I do charge for repeat jobs. I charge $100 an hour. And when I sort of go to another consultant for advice or whatever, I would always charge at the rate of $125 an hour for my client. It means I have a margin on top of what I'm paying the subcontractor or the other consultant. I don't know if that answers the question.
Yeah, I would add to that one of the things that I'm concerned about with the internet is that there's so much information that's out there. And so I've been saying lately, one of my mantras is FM knowledge does not equal FM understanding. It's 2 totally different things. So in fact, I was in one presentation, and the guy that was presenting was actually used a slide that I had personally created myself. So, and I'm looking at it, I go, wow, you know, this is really interesting. So, so the world's changing in that regard, but as far as, like, I outsource, my accounting is outsourced, my office is outsourced, answering service is outsourced, tax, like I said, tax preparation is outsourced. And when I mentioned the individual that I had subcontracted to, I just work out what their rate is in advance of what the contract is with that I'm contracted to, that client's rate, whatever their budget is, and use it as a flow through, and then a percentage for overhead, so that I'm not paying, because I'll have to pay taxes on my end, and I don't want that to come off of my profit, so I make sure I build that into his fee, and like Val said, just to be upfront with your client. And usually nowadays you have to disclose that anyway in contracts. They actually want to know who are the people that are going to participate in that contract, their company background, if they're outside of your own company.
Yeah, I think one of the cornerstones of consultancy, in my view, is credibility and trust that you build in that relationship with that client. And the fact that you sort of going and outsourcing anything that is not your specialty and telling the client, it's part of that trust and credibility thing which the clients do appreciate, because in the end they know that you will not put your name to that decision or to that advice if you were not confident, and then they are not actually going by the advice that came from the subcontractor or the consultant. They kind of are going by this gentleman has actually analyzed, weighed all the pros and cons before coming to us with the recommendation, regardless of where it came from. I think in the end, that is what they're after, is that are you going to put your stamp of approval on this, and we're fine.
Did that help?
Yeah.
Great. And sorry. Another question is real estate and project management part of the FM consultancy portfolio, or is it separate?
Sorry, can you please repeat that question?
Sure. Real estate and project management, are they part of the FM consultancy portfolio, or is it separate from?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think that I'll say that there's no right answer to this. So different countries will debate on whether it is or isn't. IFMA has its position on it. My own personal definition for what's entailed in facility management, I see facility management as the umbrella. And then underneath the umbrella, depending on the type of industry or service sector, you can have engineering, maintenance, linen services, laundry, cleaning, landscaping. You can have IT, and you can also have construction. What's more important, I think, than the question is that you just clearly define it so that there's no ambiguity. But it can include, if you're in a municipality, it looks like one thing. If you're in the university environment, it looks like something else or whatnot. But clearly define it.
I think it's kind of evolving or has evolved, this whole thing. I mean, to give you a good example is like in New Zealand about 20 years ago, facilities management was non-existent. And so it all came under the umbrella of what they used to call those days was property management. So property management would encompass lease management, facilities management, project management, basically the works, everything would come under. So the property manager, who's basically going to the university and learning about lease management, also learned how to manage buildings. Obviously, they didn't have intelligent buildings, so they needed intelligent people like facilities managers later. So the FM fraternity came and sort of got into this whole thing. But as far as the evolution goes, that's how it was. But today, it's all changed. I mean, 20 years ago, nobody had the title of facilities manager in this part of the world. Today, there's lots of facilities managers. Project management, incidentally, has become part of facilities management out here and in Australia. So it's kind of evolved over the years. So today, if you ask where does project management sit, project management sits under the FM umbrella in most New Zealand and Australian operations. Yeah, and I don't know about where it sits in Brazil, but this is what it is out here.
Yeah, there is one interesting trend that's happening, and it's the IT bubble, the IT department and the facility management department. And because of the Internet of Everything and the connectedness of that, there's some people that are having this discussion of what is the future for facility management. Will we actually fold under IT? Or, is IT, running underneath of facility management? And what I say to colleagues that I know is don't be afraid. If you're not IT savvy, don't be afraid of it. Learn about it, and you don't need to become an expert of it. But if ultimately FM, if you think about IFMA's definition of the 4 circles: people, property, process, and technology, the definition never used to include technology. And that only was added to IFMA's definition probably about 10 years ago. So it is an integral part. So I think that we need to be, I think it should reside under, but like I say, you define it. Okay. Anything else? Any other questions?
I do not have any questions at this time. Do you want to give another minute, or we want to wrap it up?
Yes. I guess it's okay.
Everything okay?
So I have to thank you guys for the opportunity to share with us all those matters in the consultant sector. This is a type of business we've been discovering down here in Brazil lately. Actually, when we get, like me, Costa, and José, older and older, so this is a type of business we've been discovering lately down here in Brazil, but we don't have too much experience to offer it to, and to prospect it. So your experience will be something to us, helping us to develop this business down here in Brazil. So I'd like to thank you, Costa, for opening up this opportunity to us inside of Grupas. Also, we have 10 guys attending it. Personally, I'd like to thank you, Carlos Fada from GE Global Research, Flávio Gueiros, José, Paulo Pereira, and last but not least, Mr. Ricardo Crepaldi, who made it possible to us. And for sure, Val and John Ringness, thank you so much for taking your time to share it with us in Brazil. Such a long distance country, and we are very thank you so much. Costa, would you like to say something to us?
Yes, just to thank you for the great and sharp presentation. The webinar comes in hand. Thanks a lot for all. That's my opinion. I'm very proud to participate in this webinar and face to face. And this way, it's so good for the global world this time in our days. So I'm very proud to participate in it.
That's great. Yeah, if there's any questions after, feel free. I can't speak for Val, but if anybody that's listening and you have a question, send me an email. I'd be glad to answer. There's nothing you can't ask me, and I'd be happy to help.
Yeah, same thing from here. Yeah, feel free, anytime. And I must thank you for this opportunity to be part of this workshop. Sincerely appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so time to close, to finish it. Guys, audience, everybody, thank you so much for attending it, and I hope we're going to have another webinar like that soon. Okay. Have a nice afternoon, have a nice day, and have a nice weekend for you all.
Okay. But it's not just...
Okay, bye-bye, guys.
Bye-bye. Guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Joshua.
Yep, thank you everyone for joining. Have a great day.
Bye-bye.